may have been taking vacation this week. And so we'll be sending out the recording, also posting it so that people can watch it later or go back to it afterward. If you have any questions as we go, just raise your hand or unmute and let us know. If you got any things you want to comment or question as we go through this. This is an informal meeting, and our goal here is to just give you some overview of Atlas Workbench and how we've been using it with other groups and some advantages if you're already using Atlas Workbench, or if you're not, some ways you can.
And to add on to that too, this is the first iteration of a series that we're going to try and start bringing to the Atlas users on a monthly basis. So this is going to be kind of our first kickoff general training. We'll have different topics each month to focus on specific items. So on our monthly communication emails, we'll send out what's coming up the following month to allow users to know what we're going to be talking about. So if it's something that interests you or something that your group and you want folks in your group to kind of be able to attend and listen in on, you'll know when those are coming up. So this first training is to kind of say what Leilani was already mentioning, is to kind of help Atlas Workbench work for you, right? So we want to show you kind of a general background of Atlas and kind of where it began, to give you a little bit of knowledge for folks that don't have that brief knowledge yet. But really, we want to kind of dig into the different tools and give you a couple of tips about using Atlas Workbench specifically that might not be obvious or folks might not be aware of to kind of help you along in your general day-to-day workflow using Atlas. So here's the agenda that we're going to go through. Like I said, we'll go through a little bit of a background, highlight what tools we have available, some of the resources that we have, and then we'll go into an overview of the Workbench, highlighting key items that we think would be beneficial for folks to know about. And then we'll wrap up talking about how using Atlas and implementing the data governance that it implements can be useful for reporting purposes. And we can develop Power BI dashboards to kind of report out on data that's being entered into Atlas. Leilani, if you want to take over.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Tom. And so, if you've been around, you know what Atlas is: advanced transportation through linkages, automation, and screening. It began in 2018 as part of our Secretary's goal to streamline our project development, and we used Kinston Bypass as one of the original pilot projects, and then they wanted to expand it across the state, doing GIS to do that regional screening, get informed about the scope, schedule, budget, create some automation. We're doing a lot of manual processes at the time, and a place where you could go and get all your project data and your GIS data. So now we have over 1,200 or so users, with more joining each day. We've generated a whole boatload of screening reports. That's one of the main tools that are used, is the screening report, along with the GIS data layers. You can copy your layers over, download them for you, and then the Workbench. And that's what we'll be going into detail about today. We'll send out this presentation. You have hyperlinks in here where you can get to the Atlas policy and the policy memo that came out from the COO at the time. So those would be hyperlinked in there, and they're actually on our resource page that we'll show you also. So our resource page, easiest way to get to it is the Google NCDOT Atlas, and it'll take you, it's what your first choice when you do that. Bookmark it. This is a hyperlink in here to it. It's got all kinds of information on it for all the resources you need. It's got your templates are there. All of our notes are there. Our training website can be reached from there. Just general documentation about what's in Atlas, and some other pointers. So bookmark that if you don't already have it bookmarked. It's a great resource, and we've been trying to update it, and we try to keep it live and updated. As you know, if you've been at DOT for a little while, we have the free main tool, the search tool. That's where you can go and get 750 plus layers curated into one site. So you're not having to go out to each site and find those layers yourself. But most of them are web services. And so they're live from whoever the source is. So you're always getting the latest. We did not download sites and then have static data. So the majority of that is live data from the source. You also have the screening tool. That's where you can get that early project information before you even have a study area. You can draw one, or you can upload one if you have one. And it gives you potential effects, key features that are in your study area that may create an issue with your scope, your schedule, your budget. It may tell you who you need for a consulting firm or what kind of specialty you may need. And it may give you some information on what type of permit would be you'll be looking for. How do you some information determine your type of funding you may want to use, the type of document you may need. And then we have several templates we've worked with different disciplines that are specific to that discipline. So if you're working with somebody in hydraulics or in community studies, there's been templates that have been developed by those disciplines that you would use for your work for providing their reports to them. And that template list is back on our resources page. And we're going to have our next training is actually focusing on those layers of templates. So if you haven't used those templates, come to the next training and we'll go in depth on it. Today, we're going to be talking about the Workbench. Like I said, that's where you use it to manage your project data, upload your deliverables, including your GIS data. And what Atlas has done is put a layer of data governance over the SharePoint site. So SharePoint's still where everything gets stored. We don't store it in Atlas. It still gets stored in SharePoint, but if you load it through Atlas, it gives a standard naming convention, it gives a standard folder placement, and it always shows you the latest if you're looking at it on the Workbench page. And so you're not having to go into that folder in SharePoint, pick through 20 different files, and try to figure out which one's the latest or which ones you need, or which folder was loaded in. And so it's still in SharePoint for storage, but you got that data governance on top. And you saw the agenda, we were talking about the Power BI dashboards at the end of this meeting. If you're using that, implementing that data governance, we're going to show you the power of that, how you get that to work for you by using the tracking and analysis in these other tools when you have that database that has that data governance on it. If you don't, then those type of tracking analysis tools are not very effective. So that's a little teaser for towards the end of the meeting. All right, so this is our screenshot of our Atlas resources page. You can go in here and those would be hyperlinks. You can see that you get to the resources and this is the top of the page and it says, oh, well, you need your tools, go here. It links directly to our training modules, which are self-guided training modules. You can go through each one specifically for a topic you're looking for, or the general training modules. We have our Workbench standards and schema base file. If you're creating a GIS layer, we recommend you using that base schema because then it sets everything up correctly for you. I mentioned our layers and templates, goes into detail about that. And then a lot of other resources are on that page. So our Atlas Workbench tool. This is a screenshot. We're going to go live in just a minute, and you're welcome if you have your access to log in and follow along with us if you want to. So it's the way you can get direct users to the final versions of deliverables. If you need somebody, if you're publishing a layer, publishing a deliverable, and you want 3 different units to get it. Instead of having to email out everybody, you load it on Atlas. They always know where to go. They get the latest one. They get the final deliverable. It does, if you add a new one into a document like an update, it does archive the old one. So it's still there, but it's the latest one that you always see on the Workbench page. And then there's a lot of qualitative questions. It's information that the discipline found important to pull out specifically. Maybe it's within the document that was uploaded, but instead of having to read through the document, you can get a quick qualitative answer on the screen, and then that can be reported and tracked also. But it is project specific. And so the permissions in SharePoint are the same permissions that are in Atlas for the Workbench. So if you have project access through SharePoint for a particular project, you'd have the same access when you go into the Workbench. And then it's Workbench is project specific, whereas the search and screening tool is statewide across all. It's not restricted to any particular project permission. Okay, so now we're going to go into the Workbench Live. And so did we have a go to the pre-construction homepage? Just show people how to get into this project. So we're using a test project here, R5763. You can go to pre-construction home, and then you can type in, R5763 or whatever project you're interested in. And can you show them that, Tom? Go to pre-construction home. We'll show them from the beginning how to get into it. So you can go here. I'm sure you've used this 100 times. Type your project in, or whatever project you're interested in. And it takes you to your main Connect page. You can see you can get the search and screening down the left-hand side or drop down the tool. Yep. And we're going to focus on the Workbench today. So you open that up and then click on Workbench. If you haven't already signed in, it asks you to sign in using your NCID. And then you get this disclaimer that comes up. And if you'll read through this disclaimer, it does have the actual disclaimer at the bottom, but we've added some information so that the users can see this up front, like any changes, any new layers, just some general information. And then that disclaimer, says use it at your own risk kind of disclaimer that we have on all of our IT tools. So you hit accept on that. And then this is what your first screen looks like when you open up your Atlas Workbench. So this is your basic project info page. This is information that's pulled from SAP. You see it's got your location, your division, the firm that's assigned to it, your funding source, some basic information, what document type is expected. And then if you scroll down, you'll see some more information from SAP. This is helpful, especially if you're a consulting firm or if you have a consulting firm working on a project. They can't get into SAP, so that SAP information is pulled and displayed here. You can see who your contacts are listed, your major contacts in SAP, your key milestones, what the schedule date is and what the actual date is. So that's a very good quick reference to your schedule that's coming up on your project from SAP. And then you can get some estimates data. Your TIP, your right-of-way and construction estimates, the latest ones, the dates, and if there's state or federal funding. So to me, that's been very helpful to try to get some SAP information displayed that's available to everybody. You don't have to be internal to DOT to get it here from your Workbench. And then you see at the bottom of the page, we've made links to a couple of other tools. If you're using these tools, we have the project commitments tool and the minimization tracker. Those are links to the SharePoint tools. If you use those, you can get them from right here. And you can't update them from here, but it links you directly to them and you can use them there. So that's your basic project info page. the next thing we're going to look at is how, like over on the left-hand side. So over here, you can look at, you got several different buttons across the top, and then you have your different disciplines, as we call them, grouped by headers down the left-hand side. The first thing I like to do is hit your check status button. And you click OK there. And what this does is that it starts changing as you see these check marks, and you can see where work's been done. So if it's gray, it means that section wasn't needed. Or if it's green, it means it's been completed. The yellow check mark means it's in progress. Somebody's done something on it. And the red indicates that it's no work has been done on that section. And so this is a very quick way just to get a very high level look at what has happened on your project and what has not happened on your project. So let's look at document uploads, and let's look at final environmental documentation. So there's different ways you can upload things. You've got, if you open that first section, you've got just your qualitative question, like this is date and document signature. You've got your PDF upload, so you can see that R5763EA. It was uploaded here. You get it when it was last saved. Cat for Cowie uploaded this and the date and the time when she did it, so you know who was the last one that saved it. So on this project, you have the EA, and then you had the Fonzie that was loaded right behind that. So those are your basic document uploads. You have a GIS layer you can upload. So she uploaded her project study area here. And so that goes when you load something into a GIS layer here, then you see that over in your Atlas search and screening tool, our Atlas search tool. You can immediately go over to there and see the GIS layers you've loaded along with other environmental features. And then we have qualitative questions. This one is, are all environmental documents considered complete for this project? And she clicked yes. And so you could run a report, particularly here, and say, show me all the projects that have, their environmental documentation is complete. We also have the document consultation. Another example here, and I think we have a document set here, I believe. Now, these are all PDFs too. So we'll get to a document set in just a minute. I'll show you that. We'll go for document sets, go to public involvement is a good place to look at document sets. So document is one document, you load it. You can load it to another one to replace it, and you always see the latest one. For a document set, then this was where the public involvement and other disciplines said, well, we're going to have multiple pieces of paper or files or material that all relate to each other. So you can think of it as stapling some documents together. These all relate, in this case, for public involvement meeting minute materials. And they may have 10 different files they load here where it says document sets. And so if you load a file there, you can come back later and load 2 or 3 more, or load 10 at one time. And it all goes into the same folder, all under that discipline, all into the Atlas deliverables at one time. And so, like I said, it's like creating a folder that you put all your material in at one time, and you want that whole folder to come back to you when you're looking for it. And so you have your single document upload, you have document set uploads, and then you have qualitative questions that you answer. So that's kind of that high level overview of what you're loading into Workbench. There's a lot of other functionality here. So if you scroll back up to the top. So we showed you the check status, and that lets you see what's been done or what hasn't been done. This project up there in the orange bar, it does not have it, but if there was a scoping site that corresponded to your project, there'll be an H number right up here in that orange bar. You could click on that and it would take you directly over to the scoping pre-con or scoping Workbench and to the library, the SharePoint library for that project. And what we've worked with SharePoint to do, if you have access to the pre-con project, you now automatically have access to the scoping version of that same project. So you don't have to go and request separate access to those. And you can link to them from here and jump back and forth between scoping and pre-construction if you need to get documents and bring them over. Or see what they did during scoping if you weren't involved in it then. The other thing we have here is a generate reports button. And so the generate reports is very handy. So let's go to that. And we were just looking at final environmental documentation. So if you needed to report out on what's been done and share links with somebody, you click that, you download the selected report. And then it generates this report. You have the basic project information again at the top. And then you have a list of the controls that were available and then the direct link. And so somebody does not, if you want to send a report to somebody, say, oh yeah, my environmental documentation is complete. Here's my report. Here's the links to those files. They don't have to go looking for them. They don't even have to go back into Atlas to get them or into SharePoint to get them. They've got the link in the report. So very quick way to report out to others what you've done, what's been completed, and give them very quick access. They get answers to the qualitative questions and links to all the uploads. So that's one thing that I think people maybe have not been using much, or maybe we just weren't very good at telling people it was there. But that generate reports can be done for any section individually or the entire workbench as a whole. And you get a long report there. So if you're interested in just one section, you can click on it and download that report, or you can click on one button and get everything at one time if you want a general report. And so as you can see, this matches all the disciplines. You can go through and run the entire report or the full workbench report. Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Have any of y'all, just show of hands, have any of y'all used those generate report buttons? Yep, good. Okay. Well, hopefully they're helpful. If there's any updates or any changes we need to make to that, we're always taking feedback and making enhancements. Another button there at the top is the content search. We put this in so because there is as we add in more and more disciplines, then it's got to be, oh, well, where is this or where is that? So we were just looking for, like, somebody didn't know where to find that EIS or that ROD. You could type that in the content search here. And hit the search. And then it shows you this is searching for that EIS tag there, but you can see here, so in air quality, it refers to it, but you're actually wanting the consultation, the environmental document, or you can scroll down and you see your actual final environmental documentation. It tells you what the control is, what section it's under, the directions for it. It gives you the PDN code that's adjacent to it. All the places here. So this is like a text search and all the places where an EIS would show up. And then you can see what discipline it's in, which is the tab name, the section it's under, and then what the control is to find it. So that's just a little reference so that you can, if you're haven't been using Workbench much and you want to find something quickly, you don't know which tab it's under, you can use that content search and find what you're looking for. Okay. Now, one thing we did not mention, open up the final environmental documentation again, because people have asked, well, how do I get my discipline to turn green? Well, there's see that little asterisk? There's an asterisk beside that question, that's what the discipline has said, that if this question's answered, then, or these answers are provided, then this is what makes this section complete. So on this one, as you know, is like, okay, you can get any number of different environmental documents. And so they added in this asterisk question here, or all environmental documents considered complete. They checked off yes. And so that check mark over on the left-hand side goes green. If there's a question that you haven't answered that has an asterisk, but you've done some work, it's going to be yellow. And then if no questions or no uploads have been provided, then it's still in the red. You can turn it gray and it says, oh, this section is not needed. So if you're doing a project that's smaller and you don't need an entire section, you hit that gray box, that first box, and then you're going to get a gray button and you know, oh, well, that's not even needed for this project. Like this LGA coordination is gray. I'm not expecting anything to come in there. So that's how you make certain ones required. So this is all based on the discipline input. We had multiple interviews. These are being updated as the PDN. If y'all were in the PDN meeting yesterday, we try to correlate closely with the PDN and any updates that they make. We did add in the PDN code. I know they recently changed some of the titles and rearranged some things. And so we'll be following those updates as they bring those out also. Okay, anybody got any questions about just the general use and uploads, documents versus document set, the GIS data, how you view it once it's loaded? Anybody got any questions up to this point? Okay. All right. Well, when you get time, come in here and look at these different disciplines. We're always adding and adjusting these as each discipline makes updates either to their PDN, to their process, to their workflow. We would then reflect it over on the resources page in the standards document and the templates, even if we need to do that. Some of these are in more mature status than other ones as we work through the different groups. But you can see it's a lot more than just the environmental side of DOT. We cover everything from hydraulics to traffic to all the environmental, project management, EPU, PMU, roadway, all of those. So if you go in here and you've got any questions about anything, be sure and email us at atlas@ncdot.gov. If you've got any suggestions for things that need to be changed, or you see something that doesn't look quite right, let us know that also. All right. So hopefully y'all been in here and y'all got a feel for how to go through the Atlas Workbench. I think we're going to go over to the Power BI dashboards now. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So these dashboards are, like I said, using Power BI, which is a Microsoft project. You all have access to these on your desktop. We've been creating these for different groups that are using Atlas to load their deliverables. And the reason you can use it then is because of that data governance. It's forcing the data to have a standard naming convention, is going into a standard folder placement, is using standard tagging and naming. So then with all of that data governance behind it, you get a lot of tracking and analysis power. You can use the Power BI to visualize and report that data for your project across your division, across multiple projects. It's very configurable and very interactive. We're going to show you a couple of examples today. You see the screenshots here from hydraulics. They've been very interested and how they can report out on their project workflow. And so that's what theirs is directed at. You'll see the category exclusions one. As you know, we have to report to federal highways on all of our categorical exclusions. And EPU uses that to do that FHWA report and track what CEs have been completed, where they're located, and there's other interaction you can do there. So we're going to jump live over to the Power BI dashboards now.
Perfect. Thanks, Leilani.
Yep, I'll turn it over to Jenna to walk us through these.
Yes, so like Leilani said, we're going to start here with the hydraulics dashboard. We have been working with this group for a while now to kind of get this up to their requirements. Through working with them, this is kind of where we've landed. All of our dashboards, we start here with a quick reference guide. It just gives a brief overview of the Power BI environment. And then this little I button over here will just say when the data was last refreshed. So for this hydraulics dashboard, it was last refreshed on the 22nd. Over here is where all the pages are within the dashboard. Like Leilani said, by using Atlas Workbench, we're able to pull in this data. We worked with them to come up with these two different tables where you can see the missing summary and a completion summary. So the missing summary is ultimately showing where these questions have not had an upload occurred. And then the completion summary is where questions have been answered and an upload has occurred. So these visuals are all interactive. So if I select a project up here, the project table down here will filter. You can see that these two questions for this project have been answered no and on this date. And then up here, since this question had a yes, it's waiting on an upload or we are expecting an upload. It can just be unselected to go back to the full view. If you want to see one that has had a few more responses done, you can see that we've had several uploads on this project and these links are live. So to go to that link, all you have to do is click it and it will take you directly to that document whenever it was uploaded. Over here, we have filters for these pages. So if you want to see something during a specific date range, projects related to a certain division, a specific project, instead of having to scroll through these tables, or even a specific control. So if they wanted to report on the final 4C merger minutes, that control can just be selected to view. This next page is just an uploads overview page. So it's similar to the other one, has a couple other visuals down here. You can see the number of uploads that have been made by division, the number of uploads across time, and the number of unique users. And then, like the previous page, these links are live as well with the same filters that we had on the previous page. Next is this metrics page. This shows a comprehensive overview of the number of yeses, nos, and uploads made by control, and then also by project. We have the same filters over here, and then can see total responses by date. So this is cumulative of both yeses, nos, and uploads is what it means by all responses. This page is interactive as well. So if, let's say they wanted to see where these yeses, nos, and uploads occurred for the 17 BP5R 100 Granville 12 project occurred, they can click that and then they can see that the nos occurred on these questions, the yeses on these, and then their accompanying upload. I didn't mention this on the first page, but this asterisk means that that associated question does not have an upload. So they do not expect to see any uploads for this asterisk question. Do we have any questions about the hydraulics dashboard? Before I move on to the CE one, I know that that was a quick run through. All right. Like Leilani mentioned, this CE dashboard was created for EPU to report on the categorical exclusions for FHWA. These CEs are pulled in actually from two different sources. These are both coming from Atlas Workbench and then another Excel location that we worked with EPU to gain access to in order to pull these in. So this is a cumulative of all the CEs that have been reported on for the year. You can see each one whenever they were delivered, and then you can see where the CEs were delivered by division, and then, of course, the CEs by total amount over the course of the year and the number of unique users. Like the previous dashboard, these are all interactive. You can click on a moment in time. You can see whenever those were submitted. If you want to see the ones that were done for a specific division, such as Division 5, you can do that here. And then again, these are filters. So if you didn't want to click over here on a bar, you can select a specific division here, a certain project, or the source here is either Workbench or, like I said, that EPU spreadsheet is from SharePoint. So if you just wanted to see those that were delivered on one of those sources, that can be selected here as well. Moving to the permitting dashboard, we wanted to show this one because the permit tab, their tab is set up to be document sets, which Leilani covered, where it is a file structure where multiple documents can be uploaded into. And also their qualitative questions are a multi-select option. So for permitting, I'm going to scroll down here to one that we've had a few more answers on. Let's do this, the same 17 BP5 R100 Granville 12. So for permit, there are two different headers, I would say, under the permitting tab. There's this permit application package and a permit receipt package. So whenever a user goes in and selects the different relevant permit type and modifiers, they selected buffer certification, GP50, and individual 401. And then that's their document set where they uploaded those into. Now, what they receive could be different from what they selected previously. However, that is not the case for this project. Excuse me. So the relevant permit type and modifiers for what was received was also the buffer certification, the GP50, and the individual 401. Because these are document sets, these links connect directly to Connect in the discipline folder, and you can see where the uploads have occurred on Connect. This answer date here is the most recent permit package dates. So that's whenever the date was selected for the most recent permit package, and then the received date is the same. This date column is actually whenever those answers and uploads occurred within Atlas Workbench.
One
Like
thing I
all
want to
the
add there, Jenna, that's important for like permitting and other things that might be applicable to their groups. That multi-select, like when you see, like they turn in an application for the buffer certification, the GP50, individual 401. As you know, those permits don't always all come in at the same time. And so with it being a document set, let's say they got the buffer certification first, they can load that, and then they can go back and load the 401, and then go back and load the general permit. And so that document sets lets you load multiple documents at different times. So you don't have to wait until you have all of them. And then as they For this one in particular, it helps them track because they say, oh, well, I'm expecting those three. And then you could see, oh, I've gotten one in, or I've gotten two of the three, or all three in. And so that gives them a way of comparing within the workbench what's expected versus what's been delivered.
Absolutely. Like the previous dashboards, all of this is interactive as well. If they just wanted to see the permit received package type, that can be clicked up here and the table will filter accordingly. These filters we've seen on the previous dashboards. And then this page is permitting metrics. So it looks very similar to what I showed for hydraulics. It shows the answers that have been selected for the permit application package, and then the upload to that given folder on Connect again for that project, and then the same for the permit received package. And then over here, if a user wanted to see where the answers had occurred, they can select on that project and you can see where the answers occurred and the totals. And everything again is interactive. Same filters over here, and it just gives a really good overview of what's occurred on this for permitting by a whole control standpoint and a whole project standpoint. Leilani or Tom, I don't know if you have anything else you would like to add for dashboards, or if there was another dashboard you think I should show.
I think that's probably good. Did anybody have any questions? Have y'all used Power BI dashboards yet? Is it new to you? Are you, would you be interested in something like that for your discipline or your group? Or would you like access? We could give you access and you could go in and look at it and play around with it and get more familiar with it if you haven't used it before. Is there any interest in having looking at Power BI dashboards?
And you could let us know in the chat if you would like access, and we could make sure that we provide that to you.
Yep. And Zahid, I saw your question. What percentage of folks are using Atlas Workbench? Percentage is hard to guess right now. We do have this same type. Maybe pull that one up. Pull up our Atlas Power BI. Jenna, if you want to pull that up. So we do track that kind of information. I don't know if we can tell you on a percentage, but we have our own Power BI dashboard. And you can look at how many users we have, how many screenings have been done by year, what layers are being used, what projects, what division. Look at this. Division 5 is just cranking it. Look at them. Yeah. They're our star performers, at least for this reporting period. And talking to some of them, they actually train their people as they coming in to use it. And so they've got a lot of power behind their data right now. And so, yeah, we can share this out. We send this report to upper management on a monthly basis. And so this might help answer some of your questions, Zahid, about how many people are using it. I don't know how to answer percentage. You can see the use has gone up. You can see how it's, in the trend data down on that bottom left. So, this might help answer some of your questions, outside of percentage of how many people are using it. You can do Workbench. You can look at screening. Hit on that screening tab. Yeah. How many screenings are being done? What layers? We can look at what layers people are using. We have a layer tracker that helps us make sure the layers are functional, and we can see, oh, people are using this layer a lot or that layer a lot. So the Power BI gives us a lot of data that we can use to analyze our own programs. All right, thank you, Zahid. Anybody else have any questions that we can answer for you about the Power BI dashboards or how they can be used? And they do pull in data other than just an atlas. We have the Division 5 dashboard we're showing next week, and it pulls in data from SharePoint, from I think SAP, from Atlas, from HighCam. I think I have those right. And so the Power BI is one way to kind of consolidate data from different systems that are not integrated at DOT. We all have to work with those. And it's a good way to pull that data into one place and be able to use it. Okay. If not any questions, then we'll wrap up our presentation today. Go back to our PowerPoint. And I think that was it. We went through all of our Power BI. Like I said, we've got our Atlas at ncdot.gov email. If you've got any questions, if you want access to Power BI, if you want to ask specific questions about your group or a tool, just send us a message there. We have our team that mans that, and you will get a response back, and we can follow up with you with any details. Like I said, we're going to be updating some of the Workbench based on the latest release of PDN, in our coordination with each discipline and their updates. And we always love feedback from you, our users. So feel free to tell us what you like, what you don't like, what would you like to see different, or how we can potentially assist you in using some of the tools that we have available now. And the Power BI is IT approved, so we do not have to get any special permission to be able to develop those and use them within our group. All right, Atlas team, do y'all have anything you want to add that we didn't cover?
I don't think I have anything else. Covered everything.
All right, and if y'all got any other topics for us to cover, any suggestions you want to hear in our future kind of lunch and learns, let us know. We want to keep them to an hour and so that people can attend. We're going to record them so you can watch them later. But yeah, send us any topics that you'd like to hear us talk more about. And I appreciate y'all's time today, and I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.